Hey y'all, what I read, there was a lot of spice in this. How about we go to therapy?
Splice Originals.
If you're new here, my name is Mac. I am a part-time social media and content creator. I'm a media student at Arkansas State University. I'm a sorority member of Zeta Tau Alpha and a pretty big book fan. Today, I'm here to talk to y'all about the books I read in June. So, per my last video, I'm going to start by sharing some of my stats for the month, and I will have timestamps if you want to skip through this part. In case y'all don't know, I use Storygraph for all of my app tracking. I used to use Goodreads, but I really just like the layout and structure of Storygraph a lot better. I will pop my link in the description below if anybody wants to be my friend. I don't have a lot of friends that I actively look at what they're reading on there, so I would love to have some of y'all bookish babes go be my friend. So this month I read 7 books and I'm about halfway through another audiobook, but as of filming this, it's July 1st and I'm not officially halfway, so I only like to count books for the month prior if they carry over to the next month if I've completed like a majority of that book in the month before. And I think I'm at about 40-ish%, so not halfway. I think I'm about 40-ish% through my current audiobook, so that is going to count towards my July wrap-up. But I read 7 books, 4 paperbacks, and 3 were audio listens. So I read about 1,407 pages, and I listened for about 29.37 hours. And my average rating across all of my reads this month was 3.93 out of 5 stars, which not a bad reading month, but I don't think I just had a lot of standout books the way I did last month. My highest rated book I read this month was a 4.75, and just kind of a disclaimer, I'm not a super harsh reviewer. I kind of like to digest and like think back a couple of days later on like the staying impact of a book, and that's like a large factor as far as how I review. So same as last time, we are going to start with the audiobooks that I listened to this month. First audiobook that I listened to this month was I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. For those of you that don't know, Alice Oseman is the author and creator behind the popular graphic novel and now turned Netflix series Heartstopper. I'm such a huge fan of Alice's writing style and also her artistry. Amazing, top notch. And I really wanted to pick something else up from Alice outside of Heartstopper because I've really only read within Heartstopper. I Was Born for This follows a fangirl named Angel who is very obsessed with a popular fictional boy band, The Ark, and she is very involved in the fandom culture for this band and she loves them and pretty much revolves her life around her role in the fandom and being an avid fan of The Ark. And this book is dual perspective, chapters from Angel's perspective, and we also get chapters from Jimmy Cargo Ritchie, who is Angel's favorite band member of The Ark, and we get to kind of see a behind the scenes of some of these moments that fans like Angel through her perspective go wild for, and different media moments from them. And this story really just follows the two of their separate perspectives and how they eventually collide at a concert in England. I gave this book a 4.75 out of 5 stars, and I honestly might kind of like cook on that, and I really feel like it's a 5-star because it's probably the most impactful book I read this month, like as far as just like enjoyment and like staying power in my mind, how much I've thought about it. I really enjoyed this read, and I'm gonna pull up some of my notes really quick and get back with y'all. So I really loved the character construction within this. I think I talked about this in my reading vlog that I did a couple weeks ago because I had just finished listening to this like the first day of that vlog. Go check it out if you haven't already. But I really enjoyed Jimmy's chapters a lot more than Angel's initially. After that like 2/3 halfway point where Angel was at the concert, spoilers, and met Jimmy, I really enjoyed her more. I enjoyed her as a person and kind of her perspective a lot more in those following chapters. I think that might be the only thing that initially kept me from rating it a 5 out of 5 stars was Angel was a little bit much at the beginning for me. But I really enjoyed Jimmy's chapters all the way through. I really loved all of the character construction here. I loved all of the Ark boys. I loved Angel forming these new relationships and friendships when she's not really sure of her own identity. I found that to be really compelling. And I really just loved the way that fandom was discussed in this book because I listened to this at the same time when I was reading Everything I Need I Get From You by Kaitlyn Tiffany, which is another book about fandom culture I'll talk about later in this video. But I really, really enjoyed getting to experience both a professional kind of perspective on fandom culture and then also a fictional setting of another perception of fandom involvement and parasocial relationships. Let me touch on that because the parasocial relationship dynamic here is amazing. I love that Jimmy is a character that is very honest and self-aware. You know, these fans say that they love him and they just adore him, and he feels like he's a stranger to them because he really is. And I really loved this book a lot. I think I would probably go back and give it a 5 stars. Just like talking about it makes me remember like how quick I listened to this and how obsessed with it I was. The ending, I really kind of love that, like, the ending kind of caught me off guard, you know, because I was like, that's it. We don't get to see any of the repercussions of Lester being okay, of Rowan's relationship with Bliss coming. Like, we didn't get to see any of the media-centered aspects of all of these different public scandals kind of come to fruition. And I kind of like that because it does turn on its head the fact that fans in any capacity have certain expectations and feel entitled to certain things. And I really kind of liked the dichotomy of how this book ended compared to that. The second audiobook I listened to this month was Teacher of the Year by Wardell, and I gave this a 3 star out of 5 star. I'm gonna be honest, I think I probably should have given it a lower rating considering how many times I was sitting there just like not enjoying it. Teacher of the Year follows a kindergarten teacher named Marvin Block as he is nominated for Local Teacher of the Year, and as he is also integrating a new student into his classroom named Alona, and he's also grappling with the fact that he is extremely attracted to Alona's dad, Owen. And he's also dealing with a lot of his own internal issues regarding insecurities with dating. His mother was an alcoholic, and so he's grown a fear of substance abuse issues, and that will be... I'll talk about that in a second. So I think this is kind of my fault. I really went into this expecting just something very easy and lighthearted. I just kind of wanted a very chill, quick listen because I just finished I Was Born for This, and I'd also finished Everything I Need I Get From You, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I kind of just wanted to pick up another quick audio listen, keep the momentum rolling, and this was definitely something. I think I was not expecting a very spice-heavy book, and for what I read, there was a lot of spice in this. Take that as you will. It was not it just wasn't what I was expecting, because, I mean, I don't care for spice in books specifically. So it took me off guard, and I think that's why I was so, like, I felt like those scenes were dragging on so long. And also, I just have a lot of critiques of Marvin and Olen's relationship. I think there's, like, I kind of look at a lot of my romance reads through the perspective of I have a hard time enjoying the progression of a relationship that when I put it into actual context, I'm like, would these characters survive in a relationship after this book takes place? And I'm just like, no. And I really just don't see a progression where Marvin and Olen would exist and continue in a happy relationship for very long. Maybe that's just me, but I just felt like there were a lot of choices made with Marvin's approach to, spoiler, Olen's substance abuse and his experience with alcoholism. I felt like that was a choice, and I thought that, like, we're supposed to get the impression that they're both very mature and self-sacrificing, but neither of them would just be like, how about we go to therapy? Like, I know that that's a kind of a cop-out sometimes in books for characters to deal with their issues professionally instead of just playing ball with them back and forth with each other, but I really feel like I would have a lot more respect for this relationship knowing they were getting some kind of professional help together, because somebody who's dealing with trauma from their family member being an alcoholic, dating a previous alcoholic, I think there's a lot of issues there that neither of them had the character integrity to address. So my last audiobook listen for the month of June was Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Sher, which I gave a 4.25 stars out of 5 stars. So Fake Dates and Mooncakes follows a young boy named Dylan Tang who spends a lot of his time working in his family's takeout restaurant, and he is very dedicated to it. And through a set of circumstances, he meets Theo Summers, who is a very wealthy boy, comes from a very expensive, finer side of life family, which is something that is totally unfamiliar to Dylan, who has grown up struggling, especially since the passing of his mom, and he moved in with his aunt. And a lot of things happened in this book. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe everything. So this story really follows the issues of Dylan and his family struggling to keep their takeout open. It also follows a set of different family and internal issues for Theo, and especially within his relationship to his tycoon father. Really enjoyed this listen. I think I just really liked Dylan. I felt like as an individual character, he was very well-rounded. He felt very grounded in reality to me. Like, I kind of just complained about with Teacher of the Year that a lot of things felt very pieced together and nonsensical with some of the characters. And I felt like Dylan made complete sense. Dylan could be a normal person that you would meet and have a positive relationship with in a real life capacity. Like, he makes a lot of sense. He's very consistent with his perspective, his opinions, and what he values inside. And I thought Theo kind of, I don't want to say Theo was shady. I just didn't quite love his withholding information and spitting it out. I just don't think that, I think compared to how lovable and grandiose Theo is, with spoiler, obviously, surprising Dylan in the end of the mooncake competition, I think that that's really sweet. And I think that leaves him on a positive note. But it's like that whole moment would have been a lot sweeter if I wasn't resting with the fact that, like, he very much lied and has twice directly dragged Dylan into a very public media frenzy scandal involving his family's court battle. And maybe that's me being overly picky again, but just like, I don't like that he drags Dylan into these conflicts and seems very not self-aware of how it could impact Dylan. I understand they're teenagers, but still, it kind of soured Theo for me a little bit. We spent a lot of time on the scenes at Theo's cousin's wedding, and while I really enjoyed those scenes and how fleshed out they were, it made a lot of the hereafter feel very rushed to me. I felt like the whole last chapter or two, I believe, with the mooncake competition and the flooding of the restaurant and like a lot of that felt very, and Theo coming for dinner before, after the whole stuff with Theo's dad threatening Dylan, like, I just felt like a lot of components towards the end felt rushed. We spent so much time in the Hamptons to begin with, which I really loved how fleshed out those scenes were, but that comes to the detriment of the rest of it, I felt like, because I felt like it was kind of rushed. On to the physical books I read this month. So the first physical book that I finished this month was Everything I Need I Get From You, How Fangirls Created the Internet as We Know It by Kaitlyn Tiffany. That title is a mouthful. I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. So this book basically follows Kaitlyn Tiffany as a previous member of the One Direction fandom. Big disclaimer there. She was in this fandom. And she is kind of just dialoguing the different aspects of internal and external perceptions of fandom culture. There's a couple mentions of different fandom dynamics early in the beginning of that term, and it is a nonfiction read. I'm kind of trying to decide how I want to describe this to y'all. It's almost like a series of internal essays about different aspects of fandom culture, but within each chapter it has to relate back to One Direction somehow. I feel like this would have been better pitched as, like, the way I've seen it described and pitched online is as a fandom, like, guidebook and kind of skeleton of what fandom culture is like. And I feel like this should have been marketed more so as a One Direction, through a One Direction lens, because, like, I wish that would have been marketed more so through the One Direction perspective, just because we don't get a ton of mention of other fandoms or outside of the One Direction fandom. And I like that we had a consistent example, but I wish this was, like, I wish I knew it was just gonna be facts, essay, One Direction examples, because I kind of thought, just for nuance, they would throw in mention of some other celebrity fandoms and internet fandoms, and I feel like we didn't get a ton of that. The little glimpses we got, I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed some of the commentary from interviewing people who are in the fandom, as well as interviewing different people involved in kind of the internet at that time. I really enjoyed those parts, but a lot of this just felt very repetitive and like it could have been a Reddit post to me. So the second book that I read this month was Kate in Waiting by Becky Albertalli. So Kate in Waiting follows two best friends, Kate and Anderson, and they are both big theater kids. They love Broadway and musicals and singing and performing, and it's a very integral part of their relationship together. And the two of them also share something else. They always share crushes on the same people. And they both shared a summer camp crush on this guy named Matt, and something starts to brew in between them, a little bit of conflict and trouble, when Matt transfers to their school, and they come back on the first day of school and Matt's there, and he's obviously also involved in theater, so things get spicy. Not gross spicy, but like tension spicy. I gave this book 4.25 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed a lot of just the characters themselves. I really liked Kate's whole friend group. I thought Anderson was a very well done character. I liked the nuanced Matt's character, and kind of what I like about Becky Albertalli's books, because if you don't know, she's one of my favorite, if not my favorite author ever, is I feel like her characters are always just the right amount. Like, they're goofy and silly, but they're not a joke, but they're enjoyable and lighthearted, but they're also still of sustenance and human emotion, and I really just like that. Like, I like her style, I guess. The only thing that got me here was that Kate was a little grating sometimes, just because I felt like she was very herself focused, which I guess is normal at this high school age. I'm fresh out of high school, so I can say that. I really enjoyed this. I flew through it, I think, in a single day. I think I did this in like 2 sittings. And it was a really quick read, and I really enjoyed the theater component to it as well. Also, sleeper hit, I really enjoyed Kate's relationship with Noah in this book. I thought the two of them were, I never even really saw it with Kate liking Matt. Like, I know that that was point of the plot, that they liked the same guy, but I really just, like, from the beginning when I saw her interact with Noah, I was like, this feels right, Becky. I hope this happens. Mother, please. I really just like their cutie little relationship. I thought they made a lot of sense together, and I wish we got a little bit more into Matt and Anderson's relationship, because I feel like we got a lot of what Kate was reading into in terms of their relationship, but not a lot of concrete moments or interactions between the two of them that were very romantic or kind of solidified that they're in a good, happy little relationship. The book that I read this month was Pageboy by Elliot Page. For those of you that don't know, this little, I don't know if it's a memoir or an audiobook. Oh, it is a memoir. It says it on the it says it on the cover. So for those of you that don't know, Pageboy follows actor Elliot Page's experience growing up and discovering himself through his trans identity, and also kind of following a saga throughout some of the bigger projects of his acting career. In case you don't know, Elliot Page is the primary actor in the really popular film Juno. I have not watched Juno in a long time, but I know that that's kind of one of the key points of Elliot Page's career. Elliot Page is also the star of the Umbrella Academy. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched Umbrella Academy in like a couple years. I think I teetered off somewhere after season 2 or 3. Just because I knew there was a lot of problematic business going on online with them, like in the filming of one of their seasons, so I didn't want to support that. So I don't really know how he is in that show either. I remember liking Juno though. So I gave this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed just how quick it was, because I think with some of these celebrity and public figure memoirs, there's like a pressure or expectation to have a really long, really traumatic story. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because I know plenty of people have traumatic upbringings, and for a lot of people raised around Hollywood, that makes sense, and people are entitled to talk about how their experience however they want to. But I really appreciated that. I feel like this was just the bare bones of who Elliot Page is and their experience growing up. Like, I feel like they gave us like maybe 300 pages of just bare bones. Here's why I am who I am. Here's what I went through. Here's my experience. And now I'm here. And I really enjoyed that because I didn't feel like there was a lot of fluff. I felt like everything in here was pretty purposeful. The only thing for me was like, I felt like some of it was a little too, I wish some of this was more fly on the wall. Like, I feel like a lot of it was a little dry, which maybe that's just Elliot's writing style or just his personality. Not really sure, but I kind of just wanted this to be a little more vivid at some points. And the last book I read this month was Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So I just said that Becky never misses, and she really doesn't. Like, I quite enjoy her a lot. Like, I always know it's going to be at least a 3-star, if not much higher. I think like most of my other reading experiences, like Love, Simon, What If It's Alice, Leah on the Offbeat, Yes, No, Maybe Set, let me just list her entire repertoire, have been really great reading experiences. And this one I really did like. It's not my favorite of the group. I enjoyed it a lot just as a book, but comparatively to her other works, not my most favorite. So this follows Imogen, who is a high schooler, and she's invited to come spend the weekend at her nearby college, at the nearby college of her best friend. And she gets into a lot of different little social situations in this book. It really follows her kind of outgrowing her high school best friend, who has held her back a lot in terms of coming to terms with her sexuality. And also this follows her just kind of rediscovering her own identity through the eyes. So I really enjoyed Imogen as a character here. I really, really enjoyed Tessa, her love interest. I found their relationship to be very sweet, very wholesome. I really liked towards the latter half of the book, we got to see a lot of Tessa's very pure interactions with her, knowing that she's very new in terms of living in her identity in this way. And I really don't want to like overly critique this because I know this is really close to a lot of those experiences for her. You can feel a lot of tinges to it. And yeah, I don't want to critique this too much. I did just find certain characters to be a little grating, so much so that it impacted how I enjoyed the book. Just being super honest. And I also felt like things after that first initial weekend at the college campus, I felt like things were kind of rushed and then slow and then like I felt like everything kind of felt a little abrupt. And so while this is not my favorite Becky book of the lineup of all of her books that I've really, really pretty much loved all of them, I did still enjoy this read a lot. And Becky Albertalli is so incredibly talented as an author. And this is a good pickup if you want a little lighthearted queer romance. So that is all for my June reading wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. That way you get notified every single time I post. And if you made it to the end of the video, comment down below your favorite childhood cartoon. I have a lot, but I quite liked Gravity Falls myself, and I also quite liked Star vs. the Forces of Evil. When you see this, I hope you're doing well. And yeah, until next time, bye!